come and moderate the panel discussions. And then the rest of the questions that will come, or the reactions about the presentation earlier on, can come after the panel discussion. So, Brother Sam, that I, huh? So you add me the other one. You said which one? Brother Sam, please, the stage is yours.
Thanks so much, my brother. So to be a responsible citizen, one, even if the word of mouth is taking lead, Radio Katwe, but let's be so mindful about who is giving us and how the person is giving us the information. I'll take on this session as your moderator, and we shall strictly take 1 hour. So I'll take the opportunity to thank giving us this opportunity, because we're all affected and we all matter. Since it is Mimi, Wewe, Sisi, so we all matter. And we can all become responsible citizens. So for now, I'll invite Mr. Komake, then Freddy Chelimo, DO Caps, that's Captura, Caps, Kauma Rose, Kagweye, from Namatumba. Then finally, Madame Nabudwala Catherine, who is the town clerk of Busiu Town Council, Mbale District. Okay. Tuko wa sita, sindio? And then the Mama Saba, we call it Sesaba, or Bazi Sesaba. Aha, Bas Sesaba. Thanks so much. In regard with what we've been sharing since morning, we are looking at the information flow from the bottom to top and from top to bottom. Information flow in terms of concerns and the needs of our society of Uganda, where we belong. Our panelists are stakeholders. They're part of our society. They'll be responding in line to what we've shared in the report. But my biggest concern was, being a farmer, that during the community meetings, security takes lead and farming is so below. And you know, my region being Bugisu, it's one of the leading. Elgon region is leading in terms of agriculture and farming. So, and yet the meetings about farming are very, very low. I think that also becomes a big concern to me as a farmer. Manaban peasant. Maybe I'll start with the Madame Nabulwala Catherine. Madame Nabulwala. You can send the microphone to Madame Catherine, who is the town clerk of Siu Town Council, Mbale District, one of the local governments under a local government, directly in contact with the citizens, who are also mandated to raise their concerns to reach the office. Maybe briefly share with us, how do you get this information from the Wananchi on the grassroots to your desk, and from your desk to the Wananchi? We've been praising PDM, that when you call for a PDM meeting, everyone almost attends. So please, can you briefly share with us?
Thank you so much, our moderator and all the participants. My names have already been, starts right from the village level. In the urban setting, a village is called a cell. So we begin with mobilizing of the communities, using our LOCs to call them for the participatory planning meetings This is done every financial year. When we go to the villages identify the priority of what government wants them to do. Of course, in these meetings, we communicate the different government programs, the different government items that they fund. So we guide them for them not to choose what government won't be able to fund. So in these meetings, we separate the women, we separate the men, we separate the elderly PWDs, because we believe when we separate the women alone, the youth alone, they will be able to really tell us their priorities. When you put them together, the men will dominate. But once you separate them, they will ably tell you what they want government to do for them. So after this level, it then moves to the parish level or the ward level. Because now we have the village priorities, we now move to the ward level or the parish level and share what has come from all the villages, because a parish is bigger than a ward. We share what has come from these villages, and then we still identify parish priorities at this level. After the parish, we now move to the town council or sub-county priorities. We now come up to select the priorities of the town council. After this, we now have a budget conference. A budget conference is whereby we also involve the NGOs, the different partners that we have in our entities or our areas of jurisdiction. Why do we call them? We call them to avoid duplication of resources. For example, this NGO, like for items that government mandates us to do. So after having the budget conference and coming up with priorities, of course we shall have received the budget call circular indicating how much government is going to give us. Then we come up with priorities of the town council of particular financial year. After this, it is then taken to the council for laying. Laying of our budget is always done by 30th March of every year. After laying, it goes back to the committees to scrutinize, to look at these priorities, the different projects that government is going to do. After that, it is then approved by council by 30th May of that same year. And then the implementation begins on 1st July of every year. In brief, this is what we do, but also we have what we call parish notices. Whatever we do at the town council level, the wards are informed. The wards are informed on their notice boards, and then the LOC2s and the LOC1s are always aware. I thank you so much for listening.
Thanks so much, Madam Catherine. Briefly, you do a lot of notices, public notices. You do a lot of printere, public printere. Yes. In which language specifically?
It is usually in English, but we have also tried to translate in Luma Saba. Though Luma Saba is really hard, I am a Muma Saba, but reading Luma Saba is tricky. So we do most of them in English. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I think some of the challenges we are facing as a community, the larger Ugandan communities, the best mode of communication in terms of written materials, that believe me, if you dropped a write-up somewhere, a few will pick it. And the radio being one of the key centers of communication to our people, or information circulation is also deteriorating. And this also brings in a concern. I'll get to cow capturer. Cow capturer, radio is deteriorating, and yet it is the largest in Eastern region, whereby people rely on it so much for information. You in Kapchorwa, one of the most mountainous regions of Uganda. One time someone was requesting that we declare it as a hard-to-reach community. How are you reaching to your people in terms of information for service delivery? And which challenges are you facing as an officer who is working with politicians? Do you get any kind of friction in terms of information, accessibility, especially from politicians?
Chora is a hard to reach place. Not only hard to reach in terms of the terrain, but also hard to reach in terms of coverage, say like the radio. If you look at the number of radio stations that we have, there are very, very few. And how far they go to the community is also limited. Even other hard to reach, areas like mobile phones, there are certain places you cannot even get network. That can explain to you how hard to reach this place is. So radio, as you are saying, is declining, and it is true. And yet it is one of the most common mode of communication. You are aware that the government has instructed all radio stations, media houses, to offer at least 1 hour for government
Programs.
government departments to go and talk about government programs on such radios. But you also note those radio, that 1 hour is not really adequate to make us make a meaningful presentation to the people. But that aside, even the listenership of the radio programs are also limited. There are very few people who now listen to radios. Few to the extent that that listen to them will only be attracted to maybe music and so on. We still get a lot of information from feedback from people. If you are in Kapchorwa every morning from around 7 to around 9, if you are a leader, you should pay attention, because people complain. What they are not seeing well being done by government. So if you are a leader, you should pay attention and be picking information at that time. I think it is the time when people are allowed by the presenters to talk about what is disturbing them in their communities.
What is affecting them in their communities.
What is affecting them. So that is one area where we sit down and pick and say, okay, they have talked about this road, they have talked about this borehole, they have talked about this school, they have talked about this health facility, they have talked about this maybe borehole which has broken down. So we get a lot of that. But just like you have said, apart from the radio, we have so many other avenues what we used to reach. And one such baraza that my senior colleague from OPM talked about, of reaching the population, because you allow people to ask you what you have done with resources, but you also tell them what you have done with what you received. It's unfortunate that someone mentioned that sometimes the baraza meetings turn out to be where people are arrested, which I think should not be the case, because your explanation, should you contradict with what you know, possibly the arrest can be handled later. So we use the baraza as another method of reaching people and getting feedback. But we also use notices like you mentioned. We display a lot of notices on releases, notices of what we are doing, and it's only when you come to those notice boards is when you can see those informations. But apart from the notices, we also exploit other venues like the churches, village gatherings like weddings, gatherings like funeral. You have ever heard our LC1s talking about government programs? Actually, in most funerals and weddings and so on, when LC1 is invited to talk in my place, he's not supposed to be talking about how good the deceased was, but he's strictly supposed to talk about upcoming government programs that are there, because you are all mourners by the fact that you have gone there. So there's no need to talk about how good this dead person was, but to talk about government programs now. So we exploit those opportunities as well. But we also have a website, like for Kasora. We have a website where we post information. But, I mean, to have data that should be able to make you reach that website and to get information of what is being done in that district, and maybe you can make a contributions. How do we get complaints from people? If you go to Kapchora, we have a complaint desk. There's an officer in charge of receiving complaints, and there's a book where you can register your complaints. And when those complaints are registered, we look at them and we respond to those complaints appropriately. Some may require giving a public explanation, maybe on radio. But if it's an individual complaint, we can address it to you as an individual who has complained, depending on the nature of the complaint. We usually don't have frictions with the politicians because they know what we do. We share information each and every time. In quarterly review meetings, when we have the committees, we share information with them. We share information with the executive committee. So we really don't have friction with our politicians on issue of information and so on. Our offices are open, and if you wish to come and get any information, you can come anytime you want to get clarification, depending on the nature of information that you want from us. So in this area of whether we have friction with them, really we don't have. But I think also this depends on
putting things right. So if we speak the truth, we shall find the best answer for our society and for our communities as well. So thanks so much, Carl, once again. Regards to everyone, Kapchorwa, especially Roger, the one who does the morning show, where your concerns, where you pick your concerns from. Then I'll come to Madam Kaumba Rose Kagoye. Kagere, sorry for the wrong pronunciation. Kagere Rose from Namutumba district. During the reactions, you were flowing so well, and I enjoyed explaining how you've been operating as a technical person in your district. Then, we have concerns of councillors, especially district councillors, some who are not able to read and write. So it brings an issue and a concern of interpreting the materials, the information that they're supposed to take back to their people at the grassroots. A representative democracy whereby they represent their people, that the voices of their people who voted for them place as a technical person at the district to handle such cases, whereby the councillors are so good, actually flowing during the meetings, but they're not able to interpret the messages, especially those documents, the important documents, especially the budget documents, because they must get this information and take it. Please forward the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. First and foremost, the first step, we have ensured that all our councillors participate in all the budgeting process from the grassroots. Like I said, the first step, and before we start, we invite the senior assistant secretaries from the various sub-counties to start the budgeting. So when that is done, we engage all stakeholders from the grassroots, meaning a sub-county councillor, whether he knows to write or not, will be taking notes from down the grassroots. So when there is a meeting in her sub-county or parish, she must attend.
Do they capture this information in terms of in written form or audio?
This information, for them, we have secretaries at every level. And after every meeting, there must be another meeting to to sum up and also to agree on which priorities should be taken to the district. So at the village parish, the sub-county level, there is a budget conference. And the district councillor of that sub-county must attend. Because I know at the district level, when she is listening to the presentation, she must pay attention to what is being mentioned from her sub-county. And we have also made sure that we deliberate in the local language to help those who cannot understand English properly to understand what is going on. After that, we sit, after the budget conference, we sit as a technical planning committee to come up with the priorities. Then we take these priorities to the district executive. And of course, the district executive comprises of councillors from the sub-counties. But still, when we are in the budget, in the district executive, we deliberate in our local language for those councillors who may not be well versed with English.
So there's a breakdown that you really break the information into local language.
Exactly.
For the councillors to pick and take to their people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Then from, of course, the executive to council to lay the budget. But also, we must also make sure that there are many representatives during the planning. The civil society organizations must be there. The interreligious council, because it is very important. The cultural leaders, they must be there. Always to remind the councillor, and even everyone, to remind the councillor at that village level what really was discussed. So after that, we take to the district council for laying. We take back to the different committees. Of course, in the different committees, the councillors are there, and even the executive was ex-officials if they want. And we deliberate in our local language to make sure that we give the best to our people. After that, of course, back to council, and we pass the budget. Meaning, whether the councillor not read or not, he has the information in his or her head.
To take back.
To take back.
Okay.
Yes, but must give a copy of the budget to him for further reference. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. I'm imagining a councillor, a district councillor, who doesn't know how to read and write and has the document. And he must pass on the information to his people. I mean, it's interesting. Eh? This is real. It is happening. Isn't it? It is happening. Eh?
They may not write their names.
Yes.
But writing statements may be very hard.
Okay. Maybe we should also encourage audio messages. You do a lot of audio. Because the biggest challenge we are facing is reading and writing, isn't it? So why don't we choose to go audio? Because if it is, the information is my local language, like myself, I'm a Mumasaba, I'll use my ears and pick, I think, 80% of it. But anyway, thanks so much, Madam Kagere, for that information. I'll get back to Mr. Abbas Awetak, who has been into much of NGO and research. Abbas Awetak, based on your experience in this field, you're a researcher, what are some of the recommendations you would give based on our report?
Number one, let me stand before I make this presentation, because it is very rare to meet these very important people. You see, they are smiling here.
Sure.
Before you, the members of civil society.
Yes.
And the ordinary citizens. But it is a different matter to meet them in the office. They are actually a power to record with. That's why I must stand to give respect to Twaweza and the Christian Fellowship, so that I can be able to cut through this. That Twaweza, the Christian Fellowship, did a very wonderful research. And it is the beginning of a conversation that we must keep engaging. And we thank you for helping us to start the conversation. We have information enclaves. If you go to Kapchorwa, for example, where Komakechi is cow, actually the dominant language is Kapsabin and Rumasava. When we are on radio, we receive messages and calls from there. Now, there is a tendency for information to flow from one channel of communication to another one. It can even start in a bar, a kafunda somewhere, and it ends up in the cow's office. Our road is bad. So it goes like that. Then it becomes right. Radios do press reviews. They bring newspapers and read them on radio. Yet the information they are reading to us is already in the media. It's already there on the streets.
It's aired already.
Simply because the radio doesn't want to lose that audience that also buys newspapers. And then the newspapers think it is to be read on radio because it advertises them. So the two collaborate. So if we did correlationists, if we did combinationists from word of mouth to newspapers to radio, you are going to see a lot of dynamic communication there. So we can capture that one in our next conversation when we are trying to look at impact, because the purpose of communication is impact. Do we do what we always do? And I want to tell these very powerful people that you have enabled me to come here, that some of the reasons why we don't come for meetings you call is because they tend to be boring and nothing comes out of them. I'll give an example. I was a chairman of Parish Development Committee for Busamaga, and I was very active. We included about 8 items that we proposed to be included in the budget. By the time we reached Wanale Division, there was no single item from Busamaga Parish. They had removed everything. When we asked why Busamaga doesn't have a single item, they said that is a technical matter. That the town clerk then was so technical that we, the people of the village who wanted a road, a school, a borehole, were actually blind to the development. Would you call me the next day and I come for that meeting where I sit there and be a busybody before you? Maybe you give me some little allowance and tomorrow I have no road in my area and a school. And then you say that is participatory planning. The reason why we get discouraged is that there is no impact from our participation in those high-level meetings. That's why we keep deserting. And when they bring entertainment on radio, we tune in. When we hear the cow talking, we switch off and go to something else. So don't take us for granted that our work are to be busybodies before the big people. We are not busybodies before the big people. We want to see impact of our participation at the grassroots before we can continue. That's why I welcome this conversation by Christian Fellowship and Twaweza. I also wanted it to be heard on this. And Komakechi is a very courageous man. He says, and is completely very honest. He takes an oath of secrecy. So he has a conspiracy with the government to hide the information from citizens of Uganda. And he says some information is not supposed to be given to you, some is supposed to be given to you. He gives himself the power even to select the type of information to give us and then the type of information to hide. And I liked the inspector there. She said, when we give information, we are arrested. Yes. You give us information that shows that there's a crime you committed and the law takes its course. You say, you are not to cooperate with us anymore. And let me tell you, Komakechi has told you, they hide information partly because there's something wrong they have done. And I wanted to tell Gonzaga and be very Catholic with him. The Gonzagas are Catholics. That's why I want to be Catholic. We have something called the District Integrity Forum. That is also a constitutional matter. But because because it addresses something called corruption, and most of our big people are culpable, he goes for the safe one, the brother. That Hakim Watenyer is always their chief guest, and they like him because he talks very openly. He tells them what they should go and hide. So next time, it doesn't feature on the agenda of the Baraza. So the Baraza is a convenient hiding ground for abandoning the district integrity forums that address issues of corruption. Now, how do you expect the public that believes, that feels, wrongly or truly, that its coin it pays through taxes, and high-end donors' money that we pay with interest is being wasted to come in a baraza where we are going to advise you how to hide next time, and we don't get anything out. That's why there's a big gap between the service delivery and the government. And that's why the big people are concentrating on the norms, the ordinary norms of how processes in local government works. If they had been working like that, Uganda would be a developed country. Unfortunately, even the allocation of budgeted for resources are politically determined. I know of budgets in this city, in Mbale, approved, but money not allocated because somebody may not get votes in that area. So he influences. Go and do for me a school in the area where I'm likely to get support. And they cooperate. They are very loyal. And that's what item that defines civil servant must be loyal to the political leadership of the day. So they go ahead and be loyal to the political leadership and avoid working in the interest of the ordinary people. That's where the problem is.
Thanks,
So,
Mr. Wetaka,
as you
finalize, let's first recognize the presence of our RCC. Ma, you're most welcome. Thanks so much. As you summarize, Mr. Wetaka.
As I conclude, next time we are doing a study of communication, we have an emerging phenomena around occupationists. Drivers are very good at word of mouth communication. I don't have to go to Soroti to deliver a message. I can even write a letter and give it to a driver who will give another driver in Soroti. And in 1 day, the message is in Kapchorwa. Then we have border. Borders are very good, by the way, at using WhatsApp. A message sent to borders on WhatsApp travels faster than the speed of light. It will reach very fast. If you go to market vendors, word of mouth, very effective, and maybe a meeting. Those ones are keen on meetings. So if we organize around occupationists, who do capture the audience we are targeting, or the listener groups or interactive groups that we are talking about. So my thinking is that as we move towards being more effective, let's focus on the outcomes also, because we are not just busybodies for the big men to see us, and then they go and they do their own things. We are active citizens who want to see results from what we have been engaged in. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Comrade Abasa Wetaka, for that good information. I'll go to Mr. Jidudu Emmanuel. Jidudu Emmanuel, you're a planner. You can briefly take us through some of the challenges, planning and information flow, because you plan according to information from the people back to the people and to the implementers. Please kindly take us through, Mr. Jidudu.
Thank you very much. I may be on record. I'm a senior accountant and not a planner.
Okay.
So that the records are set properly.
And being an accountant, I think that is the most actually suitable position that you take on from there.
Thank
that
you.
Because after our taxes are collected, then we need to see the accountability. What have they done? Eh?
Work with
what do we see?
I work with Mbale City And I want to be honest with you. You know, when you a very eloquent Nabasa with the roots from my village in which sometimes you make. But the issue here is the challenges vis-a-vis. We have taken up challenge previous municipality setting, and we have challenges with the community where they started setting up themselves. I want to, many people have, how do I get information? Many people have talked as of this world, word of mouth, but I want to give you one thing that came up that has become very interesting. Community radios. Community radios have become very, very effective in the city here. We have one in the market, we have one in Nauyo, we had one in Moni, I don't know if it's still there, Nakaroke, and in Koma. All these are the areas we've taken up. These community radios are actually giving us a lot of information, and these ones are engagements with the community. And that's how we get information, because the community radios, people tune into them because they're not having these politicians of ours that Abasa is talking about, but they come up and give information at adequate times in intervals. And people tune into them because they know they are hearing information which is for the communities. And we've taken advantage of them, and we are picking information from them. But the challenge sometimes is inadequate resources. Inadequate resources to give back to what they have given us. And it's what my brother is saying, that priorities versus implementation. And sometimes they tell him that whatever you suggested in the World Development Committee is actually appearing on the what? On the final document. So that is the challenge that we have. The other challenge is my expectation vis-a-vis actual implementation. Moderator, when we took up the city, we took geographical area.
Compared to the previous municipality?
We had two components. We had having a city which is compacted in the previous municipality, and having a city which is expanded. And we took on the other one of expanding the city. And when we took on that one, we still have the IPFs of the municipality. So the issue here is, I want to give just one Northern Division. By then they have 18 councillors. Now they have above 60 councillors. So the wage bill is too big for Northern Division. Now, Northern Division is still getting indicative figures of former Northern Division. And yet it's now having a big coverage.
Currently stretching up to Buchikali.
Buchikali, Bukonde, Nakaloke, Lwaso, Namanyonyi. And when you look at what is coming from Namanyonyi to the Kofa Division, practically nothing. And we have to make those roads in Northern Division.
Maybe to chip in a little, do you get on ground to explain this to the public through community meetings?
Yeah,
especially the new areas that were captured into the city.
Yes, yes.
Formerly
yes.
in the district.
Yes, but we have that was raised in the report. And I wanted us to, that is now the engagement. That when we are going on issues of development, people opt. They know, they always say, council egenda kwogera biri bya bulijjo. When you are going actually to engage on a very serious development matter. And that is where now we have a challenge. So we want the communities to also give audience. Recently in the city we have a development forum. City forum. It is also helping us on top of these community radios. And our city development forum has moved to engage these communities for us. And I was privileged to be their focal point person. And almost 90% of the things with the city are recommendations of the Community Development Forum. We wanted to run away from the bureaucracies that my brother alludes to them. Because these ones are a bridge between us and the communities. Okay. And they bring exactly what the community has said. And so that is where we are. So I want to thank Tuweza and Christian Fellowship. We have now an engagement platform. And this engagement platform is going to help us further to inform the communities that we are serving. That when the authorities have come, please let's attend. Maybe there was an issue of time element. If I'm going to Buchikali, what time do I go? And that is now the engagement with Community Development Forum. Okay. What time do I now go to Buchikali? If I am in the city and I've brought a baraza, I don't want to call now to be the chief guest. Whom do I call? Okay. Chairman LOC1, because we need now the real engagement to develop our communities. I thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Jidudu, for the deliberation. The decline in radio, yes. With the coming of the community radio stations, the Vizindalos, I think that's also another factor. They're cheap. They're so close to the communities. But legally, I think one day I was given power to close them down. Because, you know, UCC gives us that mandate to close them down because they don't pay taxes. Radio stations pay taxes, huge taxes. And these community radio stations don't pay taxes. But at the end of the day, we realized they're making an impact on our communities. So we had to leave them go on. But I think it's also another issue that we should also dig deep and also get to find out, are they one of the reasons why radio listenership is actually deteriorating? Then, maybe with the Tuaweza and our friends, the CFM and the Bugiso NGO Forum, we need to do something with the funerals, funerals, the weddings. In terms of information, I think it's being utilized by only politicians who are busy telling us, vote for me next time when I come. And leaving out some of the most important information that our people need for a positive change in our communities.
See, at funeral,
yes.
Funerals we all attend.
Yes.
But when we attend, they see politicians more than they see the technical team. So they arrange the whole list, LOC1, LOC2, LOC3, those
district councillor,
MP to B, MP there.
Yes. Because so they give what we call mabugo, isn't it? The envelopes.
They give envelopes. Now, he says maybe we shall benchmark in Kapchora.
Okay.
Where LOC1s have been strictly told that please talk about government what? Programs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Dudu. Let's get to the DEO, Kapchora, Mr. Freddy, Chelimo. In most districts, we have a district information officer. Currently, I think we refer to them as PROs. And even at the city council, we have PROs. And then actually in other local governments. Do you really share with the PRO of the district in terms of information? Do you share? Is he the only responsible person to give out information for public consumption? And how do you also move information from your office to other departments within the district, especially on matters of education are concerned?
Thank you very much. I am Freddy Chelimo, the Principal Education Officer, DEO, for this program. Thank you very much for your questions. We believe that information is power. Maybe to begin with, in the education sector, we know very well that in every school, in every home, there is a child going to school. And when there is some important information which needs to be passed, usually it is passed through even the school children, especially issues to do with the immunization, and especially our children and the community. So these information officers are actually very important in our districts. And especially now with the technology, which is abundant. Maybe I zero down to the FM radio. As at the local government, this information officer at every meeting, maybe a council meeting, senior management meeting, these WhatsApp groups actually pass the information very fast. So we believe that even the